Webinar on restoration. Today we have Eli Chase talking with us. He is a undergraduate student at the University of Idaho. You're a senior this year, Eli, is that right?
I am a senior, yeah.
You're a senior. Okay. So I used to work with him when I worked at the Picken Forest Nursery, and he has been doing some really cool things. He's decided that he really likes growing native plants and working on the Palouse. So he's been working with a club and some other students to grow native plants and do some native Palouse restoration. So he's going to have the opportunity to talk with us about that today, and I'm excited to hear what he says.
Yeah, thank you guys again for having me. And I'm a little technology illiterate, so just give me a second here to figure out how to share my screen. Is this working for y'all?
Yes, we can see it. It's minimized. Yep, you're good.
Perfect. Okay. Let me get this going. Present. Boom. Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys again for having me. Like Lauren said, I'm Eli Chase. I'm a senior at the University of Idaho. We used to work together at the Pick and Forestry Nursery, and I have found a very kind liking towards growing native plants, specifically for the Palouse. I've gotten to learn a lot about it since I've lived here, and it's become very important to me. And it's also been very fruitful to me in that I've learned as long as I take care of it, it takes care of me. It brings me opportunities, and in the same turn, I do what I can to help restore it through my club. Yeah. So I think today I kind of want to talk about what I did last year and what I'm doing this year through my club. So last year, we let me get this out of the way. Last year, we did a growing project through the Pick and Forestry Nursery. They were kind enough to host us, where we had 17 different Palouse prairie species, and we grew about 3,000 plants. And we worked with some private landowners to do some small scale restoration on their property, almost as a proof of concept for if this is a viable option for our club to do, and also just because it's a good thing to keep people busy with and have fun doing. My club is the Society of Ecological Restoration. Um, yeah, again, thanks to the Pick and H Franklin Forestry Nursery for hosting us for this. So, a little background: it is a student-run club. We are focused specifically on the Palouse Prairie. A little bit about quick overview of the Palouse Prairie is it's mostly agriculture and developed land. There's less than 1% of native Palouse Prairie. It is covered in invasive species like vetinata or cheatgrass, and as far as the agricultural side of things, there's a loss of 1.9 millimeters of topsoil each year. So the project we conducted last year, the project's focus was to work with private landowners, like I said, on the Palouse to introduce native plants to their property. Our specific stakeholders and or private landowners we were working with were Mary Jane Butters. She's up on Paradise Ridge. She's a beautiful property that she's really trying to restore. And then Bob Eubler, who actually lives right next to Pitkin. He owns 5 acres, something like that. And we got to do a little work on the backside of his land. And then Garrett Homer, who lives down in Genesee, he has 4 acres, something like that, but he's been very, very kind to us and allowing us to kind of like use his property as a playground as long as we're making sure plants establish themselves there. So the beginning, we started, like I said, 17 species, all native to the Palouse specifically. We planted and sowed roughly 2,800. I believe it was closer to 3,000, but I don't remember that right now. We implemented cold stratification as necessary, so that was a fun part. We really got to learn about the Palouse plants as far as their needs, scarification needs, stratification needs, what makes them grow best. And this has been a huge learning opportunity for me and the rest of the club to really understand this unique ecoregion and its specific needs. Turns out they're actually really easy to grow, and we can go into a whole nother story about why there's not enough being grown, but not today. Yeah, we experimented with different methods of seed cleaning that I've never been shown how to do. But it was fun to kind of learn about that. And then we met with professionals to understand the progress, like Dawn, who used to work at Pitkin, and then Sarah at the Rocky Mountain Research Station were all very kind and kind of giving us they helped us build a guide plan of kind of how we need to go forward doing this. So here's the species we did last year. I guess it's 16. And this year we're doing 34 different species. I don't have a list for that right now available, but so we did 16, it looks like, last year. We had, ooh, almost all of our crop come up. There were issues with management. As far as quality control and maintenance, which is the fun part about restoring a landscape, is you need labor and you need time. Unfortunately, because it's a student-run club, we didn't have said time or labor, but that was another really fun thing to learn about is there's a lot of background work that goes into actually restoring a landscape, which this year we're going to try and be better about. But yeah, really cool species, all had different strat times, different needs, everything like that. So that was fun to explore. Um, so once we got everything sowed, stratified, and in our growing containers, we had some issues that came along with that. So like our cinquefoil, it never germinated. It molded in cold stratification. So it's wintering time, which typically I've noticed isn't an issue for a lot of species, but in this case, because it's such a small seed, the mold that it accumulated over its cold stratification did violate the seed's integrity. So that was one issue we ran into, and this year we're going to try and approach cinquefoil a little different. There's a lack of pruning and thinning. Like I said, with restoring a landscape, there is a labor and time issue that comes with it. And we had neither one of those as a student-run club. We all work jobs, we all have classes. It's really hard to make things work, but I think we made it work pretty well regardless. But yeah, lack of maintenance, which this year we need to be better about. Um, Pearly Everlasting didn't germinate until 120 days after planting. That was a fun one to learn about. When restoring a landscape, really understand your ecoregion because there are specific needs and specific things that maybe the USDA doesn't have information about, or the Native Plant Society website doesn't have information about. You're learning as you go. You can only find so much online or in-person information until you actually do it. So what I learned with the Pearly Everlasting is that the cold stratification time I was under the impression that it needed was actually far less. I gave it a 30-day cold strat because that's what the USDA had posted, and it was very limited information. It actually needs 150 days. So that was, and it popped up. It's fine. It was just really a really good opportunity to further understand this ecoregion and its specific needs for its specific species. Um, Not every cell germinated. It was wild seed. We did not germ test it because there's no we're not making money off this. We're not doing anything crazy with it. It was just more about getting some plants in the ground to do something good. Um, we hand collected all the seed too. We have some deals with some private landowners who are very passionate about the Palouse, as are we, and they let us, as long as we follow a sustainable harvest rule, they let us come on their land and gather seed, which is really awesome of them. We did plant too early and all at once, which made it very difficult to gather the troops and get it all done. They had too much time to grow, so they became very root bound in their growing containers. Which at the end of the day, again, we're not making money off this. It's nothing crazy. It wasn't a big deal. But if we really want to produce quality plugs for actual restoration that will establish in the wild, we need to plant a little later than we did last year. Which again, one of those things that you come with, you're trying to restore an ecosystem. You learn it as you go. You only get better. And then we did have a fungal infection on our taper leaf penstemon, which was pretty easy to combat. I have my chemigation license through the Pick and Forestry Nursery, and they did not mind me using some pesticides to kind of take care of that, which was very kind to them. Yeah, we ended kind of the end goal of our project where we ended with it was out of the 2,800 we grew, we ended up with 2,300 due to loss of packing out plants. Some died in the process just due to neglect, because again, hard to rally the troops sometimes. I actually lost some in some transport. They fell out of my truck at one point, so there's where some of them went to, which is very fun. Um, so as far as our stakeholders, Mary Jane Butters on Paradise Ridge, this is her property right here. It's a beautiful area. We planted 1,100 on her property. We ended up rototilling a large part of her property, clearing out as many weeds as we can. We ended up treating the seed bank because there was nothing native there. So we ended up treating that to get rid of any vetinata, cheatgrass, Canada thistle, anything to be hiding in there, which you can never fully get rid of that. But we're just trying our best as a club to make it an established native plant garden. That was very successful, and I don't have this on here, but we actually had an 80% establishment rate, which I find very high, especially for this rinky-dink club thing we're doing. And I'm going to be continuing to do monitoring there to really understand how we can better, how can we get 100% establishment? Unrealistic, not likely, but like to get closer to it. We ended up planting 600 on Bob's property over by the Pick and Forestry Nursery. He's given us free range to kind of play around in his property. and use that as a seed bank or seed store in the future. That was very fun to work with him. His soil is difficult. It's old ag land that's mainly clay. So asking a bunch of college students to spend 6 hours of manual labor digging up hard packed agricultural clay is a really fun thing to do. And then Garrett's did about 300. Same deal with Garrett. He lets us use it as a seed store, kind of a playground for us. Get out there, plant as many as you can, come back, gather seed, and all the fun stuff. So they were really fun stakeholders to work with. And another part about restoring an ecosystem is the stakeholders involved you really need to build a good relationship with. They're the ones paying your bills, they're the ones funding you, they're the ones letting you come back to gather seed. It more or less, this project was not necessarily about the Palouse Prairie, although it was more or less building relationships that can sustain themselves and can be fruitful to every party involved. Along with that, we end up doing restoration for the Palouse Prairie. Um, yeah, we do some outplanting in some public areas. We got to do some stuff by the post office in Moscow, which was a cool thing. They kind of gave us free range. I have a friend at the city who kind of put that together, and that was cool. Yeah. So the outcome was very fruitful. We had good establishment across the board, and relationships have been built that will continue to benefit the club in the future. For next year, really going to hone down this year currently. We're going to hone down our stratification times. Like, for example, the Pearly Everlasting. I actually found some decent research on it. There's different species. I'm kind of tweaking what I'm doing with them. And you can see how overgrown they are in this picture. It's just ridiculous. I wish we had more time to maintain our plants that we're growing, but we got a lot, and it worked out pretty well. Like I said earlier, we're going to sow later into the year. I've already got that going, just to make sure they're not getting so root bound, and in turn, they'll have better establishment in the outplanting process. We're actually going to space our cells within our growing containers. You can see how it's just a jungle in here. We're going to space them out a little bit so they have more growing room. They're not getting tangled. And that's actually why we lost some plants because they were too tangled up and we ended up tearing them. Um, so we'll do a little more spacing, better maintenance, thinning and pruning. Over here, our Maximilian sunflower, it just got way too tall. And it was a bad greenhouse to grow this stuff in, regardless. But we should have maintained it better. This year, we're going to have actual club maintenance days, try and get some volunteers in there. And with that, teach them a little bit about what we've learned about the Palouse Prairie and why it's important to continue restoring this ecosystem as much as one can. And sowing different species at different times. We kind of sowed everything all at once, which was fine for our purposes. But if we really want to have a really good crop, we need to space things out differently and time things differently. But overall, we did learn a lot through this project, through both our successes and failures. And we get to learn a lot more about the prairie we live on. Man, and what a beautiful place with so many beautiful different species that just aren't being grown or talked about. And they provide such an important ecosystem function that people aren't aware of. But we understand our faults. And I think this year, we're going to do a little more effort into this to make sure we actually get a higher quality crop. So this is my team, good guys. We got a few other club members, but me and these three kind of really got out there and did all the work, and it did well. This is on Mary Jane's property. We rototilled this whole area you see here, and the establishment was very good. It was a long day though to get all that done. But yeah, I don't know, Lauren. Do you have any questions for me here, or?
Hey, yeah, thanks, Eli. Lauren had to jump off
Oh,
child
sure,
issues, but I'm on and can kind of moderate the discussion
sure.
and and any questions. So if you do have a question, please put it in the chat or put it in the question, and we'll get it answered. You covered a lot of cool ground and hit on some really important points on the on restoration and what makes restoration successful. Um, you mentioned engaging with stakeholders, and I kind of am curious if you could delve into that a little bit more. Like, what in particular, like uh, input or feedback did they have for the project? How did you incorporate that? Did that change the plants that you picked or the methods that you used? How did that work for you?
Sure. So the hardest part of any project, whether it be recreation, ecology, anything is the people involved. And luckily we had a good group. So I guess I'll go person by person just to make this easier. Mary Jane Butters. She is an amazing lady. She had the most input or direction for us. She actually was the one who really wanted us to grow cinquefoil for her. Unfortunately, that did not work out. So navigating that conversation with her was a little bit like, you know what, we don't want to abandon this project. We have a really cool thing going. Can we substitute other species? And she was very open about it, very cool about it, but with the intention, because if we want to continue this as a club, we have to please our stakeholders. That's life, that's business, that's friendship, that's all of it. Um, so this year we're growing extra cinquefoil in order for her to get that need met and for order for us to be able to come back and use said property as a playground while also being able to use that as a seed store for the future. Sometimes you just got to please people, and that's fine because it's all for a greater goal. Restoration's restoration. It's good. I can't argue that it's bad. So we had to, we're bending our backs a little bit more for her this year in order to make up for last year, but in turn, we get to continue to utilize her property. And then Garrett Homer, I think, is a bad example of a stakeholder because he really was just like, get out there, do whatever you want. I don't really care what happens, which is awesome for us. It made our lives easy, but there wasn't really a lot to. So, as a stakeholder, sometimes you meet awesome people that let you do what you need to do. That's kind of where it's at with
Mhm.
him. And then Bob, fantastic dude. His needs were very interesting because it's all old ag land and it's clay and it's hard. And he wanted us to kind of revamp the entire property and do a bunch more plants than we were able to give him. And because he wanted like 50 different species, he also wanted trees. I don't do trees for my club. And it wasn't difficult to work with him. It was more or less just kind of like, well, we can't do that, Bob. What can we do, though, that allows us to still continue to be here and do this project? So we're able to work out a smaller portion of his property that he found more important to establish a prairie remnant on, we'll call it, a naturalized prairie remnant. Um, it was the most important place for him to do it. And he kind of picked and choose what species were important to him as long as it didn't mess with other numbers, which again, our stakeholders are all very easy to work with. Numbers weren't really an issue there besides the cinquefoil. Um, but we really had to curate something for him because we weren't able to meet his wants and we weren't able to provide, and he didn't quite understand our means in order to do stuff until we really sat down and had to communicate, okay, we can do this part of your property, we can do these species. So as far as stakeholders, I think it's just communication, and sometimes there's some useless meetings, and sometimes there's some really important meetings, but it's just about putting the time in with someone for the greater good of restoring an ecosystem.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, perfect. Yeah, great, good examples. A few other questions are popping up here. So, uh, one is about sowing seeds. Did you sow seeds, and were they only in specific areas? Did you do any prepping of the soil, or the mitching, or did you only sow in areas that had been rototilled?
So great question. I guess I wasn't very explain. I didn't explain well there. So we the Pick and Forestry Nursery allowed us to grow using their growing containers. So we sowed seed into growing containers with pre-bought soil that has already treated from Lambert, the company they buy it from. So we grew them in said growing containers and then outplanted the actual grown plants.
Okay.
Um,
Planted like plugs, yeah, growing
Plugs,
plants.
yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Um, and you kind of mentioned preparing, like, did you have to prepare when you outplanted the plants, did you spray herbicides or reduce the cover of other uh, vegetation that's out there to ensure success or
Mixed between properties, right? Like every stakeholder has different needs and different properties. Bob's was just all old wheat fields, so we really did not have to do a lot there, besides dig really hard because it's miserable soil to work with. But as far as Mary Jane's, that was fun. That's when we rototilled, we did spray herbicide. We tried to reduce the seed bank of invasive species as much as one can, which you can never fully get rid of. And if someone figures how to fully get rid of it, please let me know. Um, Yeah, so that was kind of that, just preparing her. So I rototill herbicide. It's kind of as much as we can do as a club with limited resources. I like to think of it as a nonprofit. You only do what you can do with the resources you get. Yeah, yeah. As far as prepping the soil, I think that's we really didn't do too much there.
Yeah,
We
okay.
we didn't mess with other species in the area too. We just kind of worked around things.
Yeah. So another kind of follow-up to that is in future years, are you trying to reduce weed presence and how are you picking the herbicide?
So I'm not an expert on herbicide. I have my knowledge from my job being the Pick and Franklin Forestry Nursery. I pick it because it was recommended to me by my grower there, my boss. He's familiar with it all, and that comes back to just looking at industry professionals and really leaning on their guidance for a good thing. Like Sarah at the Rocky Mountain Research Station was able to help me with a lot of the stratification stuff. Adam at the Forestry Nursery was able to recommend what herbicides to use. Yeah, and what was the other part of that question? I apologize.
Oh, do you plan to do like that, basically maintenance or weed reduction, herbicide spraying in future?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
our outplanted crop for our sites. We do. Again, there's the issue with getting the troops together, and it's hard to ask a bunch of students who have jobs who are busy to come volunteer for a club. But we will have weeding events. I'm skeptical that I will herbicide with people. It's poison, so that's a me thing, and that's more me just communicating with the stakeholders. Like, hey, if you wouldn't mind, I can come out and spray poison for you.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. Do you know what herbicide you're using?
Not off the top of my head, no. I have it somewhere. I can.
No, no. Uh, did you do any watering?
Yeah, that was fun. Having closed buckets in my truck driving onto a hill was very fun with water splashing everywhere. We did, and the idea with the making these little prairie pockets is over with hopefully within a year they establish themselves and they don't need to be watered. Like at Bob's Land, we had a little drip irrigation line set up to kind of maintain that. Mary and Jane's, we were hauling buckets, and that was that, just to get them established and in the ground. We ended up picking a good time of the year though, where it was raining a decent bit, so we didn't have to do a ton there, but we did have to do some follow up watering in whatever capacity we could.
Someone's mentioning, have you reached out to the Palouse Land Trust? It seems like they have some conservation easements and fee land that contain Palouse Prairie. And
We have. It's been they're lovely people. First off, I mean this in no negative light whatsoever. They I don't think our mission statements quite not mission statements. They in order for us to utilize them as a resource, they are asking for a lot out of us that we just cannot provide. Although they are fantastic people, like I said, the main theme here is it's hard to get people to get out and do the work. I can't quite meet the needs of what they're asking for in order for us to make that work.
sure.
Um,
Uh, yeah. Let's see. Do you have one question here was, do you have criteria for success? Like, are you doing any monitoring to look at success or um, are you using the an ecological site description or something similar that would allow you to compare what potentially could be there to what you have?
doing a little monitoring, just mainly just to check establishment rate. Uh, none of the rest, honestly. I mean, I think this is just that's kind of where our club's duties end is although we're doing a really good thing for the world, the environment, the pollutes, our resources and time only go so far. I would love to be able to do that, but then I think, if we dive further down that road, we're talking about starting a Palouse Prairie restoration business, which would also be fantastic and it needs to be done because there's not a lot outside of the backyard growers around here. But no, we're really just monitoring for establishment rate, and past that, it's kind of out of our hands.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're running into the some of the problems that a lot of people in restoration find is that there's a lot of need and not a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah.
You pick your priorities.
Hard to ask people to do free labor sometimes.
Indeed. Um, let's see. I think there's another question about the sites of Ventonata and Cheatgrass Community on one site that had established. I think we answered a little bit about the how you dealt with the seed bank there with a little bit of herbicide spraying. Did you have to wait after you sprayed? Did you like spray
Yes.
it in the fall and then outplant in the spring?
Yep. Exactly that.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Good, good. Um, Great. Yeah, any more questions? Please just drop them um in the Q&A, but I think we've answered most of them as they come through here.
Oh, I wish I was an expert for you guys.
Ah, well, you're learning and you've got a lot of great experience already,
Yeah.
so we really appreciate it.
Ryan.
Um, oh yeah, okay. One question about lupin. Did you are you using lupin? I can't remember if that was on
We
your
we didn't we didn't grow lupin, no. No, I wouldn't even know where to gather seed for that. That'd be cool. I'd love to. I don't have a resource to gather the necessary things to do that.
someone in the audience thought Liberty Butte north of Pullman was might have a good site. Might be a good site. Oh,
Oh, good to know. Good to know. I don't know. I'd have to figure out who owns that land.
yeah.
But that'd be awesome.
Cool, cool. Well, well, thanks a lot for your time. I think we've um answered most of the questions here. Really appreciate you.
Yeah,
For the our audience members, we do have a month. This is a monthly series, and so next month, April, um, let's see, when is that? The fourth Thursday, April 23rd, we have another speaker. Um, that will be Samuel DeGray from UI Extension in Boundary County. Will be speaking about native plant species selection and propagation. So that might be of interest to you too, Eli. Come back next month and listen to see what Samuel talks about propagation. Um, but please join us then, and then we will be uh, recording this and we'll post it on our YouTube channel, and I'll send out an email when that happens. But yeah, Eli, thanks again for all your time and all your work out there. Good luck this year. Would love to see more stuff from you in the future. So I'll probably reach out and see how things are going.
sounds good. I'll only know more as the years go on. So
If only we could all be so lucky. Yes. Okay. Well, take care, everyone. Take, bye.